A lot of people out here dating with no intention. A lot of people out here dating with no purpose for real. Date yourself. Take yourself out. Get to know you.
Correct.
Pour into you. Build you up.
Yes.
And then...
So, welcome to Promised Milk and Honey. So, this is our very first episode. So, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sitting with us. We're just going to have a simple conversation. So, we're going to start off. Introduce yourself.
What's going on? Fresh. What can I say? Artist, wrestling enthusiast.
So, you're also married.
Married. Oh, yeah,
okay.
Husband, mother, son. Not a father yet.
Not a father yet.
Yeah.
So, let's slow down. You said
Child.
you're an artist.
Yeah, artist.
What do? You sing, you rap.
I write.
You write?
I write.
Poetry?
Raps. I really just pour my heart out on a notepad, and however it comes out, you know?
Okay, so what got you started? Is that like an outlet for you, or?
So, I kind of started writing in like the 6th grade. I've always had like an interest in, like, my first introduction to music was very, very early. Like, I would say, like, I mean, just growing up in church, you know, it's like you're always just around, you know, music and stuff. But I really liked hip hop for just because of just the style of it, you know. My first introduction was Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
You know, Lauryn Hill was the first, like, the Miseducation. Lauryn Hill was the first thing that ever like captured my attention at a young age, and it was from there the love of just lyricism kind of, it called me, I guess, you know.
Right.
So growing up, moving around a lot, I would make friends, and then I would get displaced into another environment. So, you know, just my way of kind of, I guess, fitting in was finding like a niche. And so when I had moved to Brentwood, around there was a lot of kids who were into rap. You know? So I kind of just felt like I needed a way to kind of just like fit. So, you know what I mean? So I just started writing my own raps, and none of them made sense at the time. And I remember where I was living at the time, there was this kid, like, he was a lot older than me, but he had lived downstairs. I had told him that I rapped, so he kind of wanted to hear me, and I, like, you know, my first raps were terrible.
I love the honesty.
Yeah, my first raps were terrible, but he was real with me. He was like, bro, you don't make any sense. He was like, you rapping all over the place. He's like, yo, learn to write, and, like, learn to, like, make sense with your writing. Learn to, like, stay on topic, and, you know, you'll get better. But he's like, he didn't really drag me or anything, you know what I'm saying? But, like,
just kept it real.
He just kept it real, and, like, I felt like that kind of was, like, my first critique that made me, I guess, want to get better. And then, from there, I just kept working on it, and, got better.
Right. All right, so I have learned what you do with the small things, you do with bigger things.
Right.
Would you say writing raps transcended into other things in your life?
Yeah. Writing was one way for me to kind of, like, translate my feelings onto, like, just get my feelings from within out, you know, get them out of this system and into the world, you know? Yeah. I think it's made me a better communicator. You know, like, I think writing helps me put my thoughts together. It helps me. I'm a visual person. So sometimes when I'm writing how I'm feeling, it's almost like I can
see it come to life.
See it, and understand myself in a different way. You know, to me, it's therapeutic in a way, you know? A lot of people, when they hear, like, rap, like, I remember the critique that I would hear from, like, older people who didn't really get it. Like they were, because I'm not just talking about like artists like that, like today. You know what I'm saying? But like there are very few artists who, when they write, even though some of their lyrics may be, I guess, explicit, they come from very real places.
Yeah.
And sometimes people can misunderstand or misinterpret somebody's art as influential.
Right.
When in reality, they're really just getting out whatever is in them.
Yeah, their expression.
And they're just expressing. So it's like, like I feel like that's really, for me, like where I feel like it's kind of helped me.
Yeah.
Just mainly just with learning how to articulate myself better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know, like,
my thoughts.
Yeah. I know, like, they say sometimes, you can always tell when the food was made with love. And you can tell when somebody was mad. When it was made with food, it doesn't taste the same.
Right.
So, yeah, I definitely could see where you're coming from. So let me ask you another question. Right now, sometimes when I make certain videos, I would title it, "This is the season that I am in right now." And I would give that particular season of my life a title. Now, what would you title the season that you're in right now?
I love that question. I would title this season "Peeling Back the Layers."
Wow. Go into that. And before you do that, would you say this season is a transition season for you?
No. Nah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I wasn't in a transition season. I feel like I'm post transition, and now I'm in a understanding who I am now season.
Okay.
So peeling back the layers, I'm kind of learning how to shed off the old and transit, like, and really, well, I guess you could say it's a transition, but like, it's more like, I think more, I'm trying to learn myself a lot deeper.
Yeah.
And because I feel like with writing, right? For a while, I had kind of just stopped for a little bit. Things kind of got in the way, work, life, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I just was not in a creative place. Up until maybe a few months ago, where I kind of just started to write, not even rhymes, just journal. As I was really starting to get back into that flow of journaling again, I started just to see that like my thinking wasn't the same as it was before. Like I was maturing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like, and understanding that, I still seen that there were things that I was challenged by internally. And I feel like that kind of stemmed from unresolved things, from just me being young and just kind of not really understanding myself at that time. And now being a man, looking back at certain things and certain experiences and seeing how they kind of impact me today, it's kind of like I'm trying to understand myself better, I guess. If
What
that makes
advice
sense.
would you give to your younger self, looking back now?
Listen to yourself. You know what it is that you know what you want.
Yeah.
You know what you're good at. You know your talents. Even though you don't got it all figured out, if you put at least 1% of effort and you do a little bit every day, over time, it'll accumulate and by the time you look behind you, you'll see a whole lot of work that you put in.
Absolutely.
Don't allow yourself to get discouraged. Don't allow yourself to feel intimidated. Those around you recognize it. You gotta just believe in yourself.
Absolutely.
That's what I would tell my younger self.
Yeah, that's good. Similar to you, I am in a state of just discovering myself, and I would say most of that is coming from realizing the identity God has already known me to be, and also because I'm understanding God more, and I'm understanding that His role of being a father in my life. Would you say that has to do with your understanding yourself too? Because I know you are a believer as well.
Major.
Can you go into that?
I think after college, I found myself in like a limbo where I kind of just really didn't know what else to really do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was kind of just thrown. I was kind of just thrown into the real world.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't feel like I was.
You found yourself adulting.
Yeah, I found myself adulting. Everybody that I was close with at that time is kind of just off and they doing their own thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still trying to figure it out. So I found myself kind of just lost.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny how like they say like, you know, you train up a child in a way, and you know, and I feel like the way my mom kind of brought me up, like well, my parents, I don't want to just put it all on my mom, my parents, you know, but my mom was, she was a prayer warrior.
Yeah.
I always knew that if I wanted to seek direction, that I needed to seek God, you know? For a while, I was kind of just in and out of church. And then eventually I found myself a home church.
Can you pinpoint the turnaround for you where you made the decision? What was so pivotal about whatever happened?
So which decision? The decision
is okay. It's no longer religion in the sense of like I know about
it's
God. It's relationship. Where was that pivotal moment for you?
Yeah, I would say January 1st, 2023. That's when I really started to really want to like take my relationship with God serious. Not even just from a religious sense, because you know, like you can be at church but not really in it. Yeah. You know. I felt like that's where I really was trying to like focus on that relationship with God, and I feel like the deeper my relationship got with God, the more I started to see the separation between me and other people. You know what I'm saying? Not as like in a way where, in a sense of I'm better or anything like that, but more so just the interests kind of just shifted. You know what I'm saying? Like at that time, I was really into clubbing. I was really into like just going out all the time. I was a player for real. And there was certain things that like after a while like started to feel like it just really wasn't really my vibe anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? The understanding of just knowing that there's just certain things that are just like shut off, that just fall off. That's really when I started to understand like that there was a change. When I finally kind of just like settled down, I feel like that's when I really started to feel the presence more. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you know, my wife encouraged me a lot around that time. Like,
would you say it was hard for you to let go of those things, or did it come easy?
I mean, it's definitely, it was like, if certain things came easy, certain things were struggle, certain things I'm still struggling with, you know what I mean? Every day is, you know, is a challenge. Like, I don't tell anybody that this is like an easy walk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not. Because at the end of the day, it's like, to be doing what you've been doing for like 15 plus, 20 plus years, and then all of a sudden just, you know, want to surrender and, you know what I mean? Just be like, yo, like, you know, I'm ready to change.
Yeah.
Like, it just don't happen overnight. You know what I'm saying? It happens day by day. You know, it's a process, and sometimes that's where it's easy to feel discouraged.
Yeah.
Because you find yourself, you know, falling. You find yourself slipping. You find yourself just caught up, backsliding. Like, but it's all part of the journey.
Yeah.
So that I had to learn that, because going through it, I found myself depressed a few times. You know what I'm saying? You know how in Revelations, like the verse that says you're neither hot nor cold. You know, I would misinterpret that and think to myself like, yo, like is he talking about me? Like, am I gonna get spit out? Lord, do you even know me? Am I who you know?
Right.
You know, so you know, it's like.
So how did you handle those situations where you were in the state of depression or feeling discouraged? How would you handle that?
Prayer. Fast. You know, counseling, talking to my wife. Yeah. My wife helped me a lot. Yeah. You know, that was really the main things, and then of course getting into your word. You know, like the word. Like sometimes it's like, if you like read the Bible plans and stuff like that, it's easy to catch things, like take certain things out of context if you don't have them, if you don't read everything. You know what I mean? So I would read, research, do my, you know, you have to, you know, gotta research certain things, and I found sources that helped me. So help me understand, you know, and then I would pray for understanding and wisdom. And that's what I would say. That's what helped me. Yeah.
So you kept saying that your wife encouraged you. She helped you, and you are newly wed.
Yes.
So tell me about life as a husband.
It's beautiful and challenging.
Yeah.
It is one of the greatest challenges that you can take on in this life. Yeah. You have to be willing to do
put in the work.
Not only put in the work, but you have to understand yourself. And you have to know, like, you have to really be willing to endure a lot. Yeah. You know? I would say a lot of people, they idolize marriage. They idolize marriage. Like, I have a friend, like, you know, coworker. Like, she would idolize marriage because she was getting a lot older. She's a lot older. I don't even make it sound like she's old, but like, she was getting up there, and she, you know, like, she wants to have kids, she wants to start a family, all of that, and she would put marriage on this pedestal, and, you know, at the same time, it's like you got a whole bunch of internal issues that you have to sort out.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Not saying that you got to come into marriage perfect, but
it's definitely going to hold a mirror for you to see it.
If you're not ready, for that, it's gonna really be a wake up call. Yeah. It's gonna be a wake up call. Yeah. So for me personally, I feel like, you know, every day I feel blessed to have somebody who I love, who I care for, who cares for me, who loves me back. but also challenges me to be a better man. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. It's like, you know, if you're not ready for that,
to be challenged,
then do the work. Do the work. A lot of people out here dating with no intention. A lot of people out here dating with no purpose for real. Date yourself.
Absolutely.
Real
100%.
talk. Date yourself.
Date yourself.
Take yourself out. Get to know you.
Correct.
Pour into you. Build you up.
Yes.
And then, when the time is right, the right one will be presented to you. Correct. You won't even have to go out and do too much.
Yeah.
But you have to get yourself right. You just got to get yourself right.
Yeah. And I want to say something along those words. There's a verse that says, it's a very known verse, the first rule is to love God. The second commandment I would say is to love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
The thing is, people get stuck on loving your neighbor after loving God. The thing is, you have to understand, it says, as you love yourself.
Right.
If you do not love yourself, there's no way you can truly love someone else. Some people say, well, I love this person. What you're doing is you're holding on to this person. So all of you is based on this person. If this person leaves, you're going to be shattered because you never loved yourself.
Right.
And in a way, it's kind of toxic because sometimes how you treat yourself, if you treat yourself with no respect, you're going to treat that other person with no respect. So yes, absolutely, I whole 100% agree with you.
You know.
So
Yeah, because it's like there's some people they ain't got no you got no business, you know, like. You ain't got no business being married. Let's keep it a buck, man. Like, you know, some people like they get married for the aesthetic. They get married for the title. You know what I mean? Like they want to show off the ring. Like they want to take the trips. They want to do all of that. But once it hits the fan, then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, 1 year later, they divorce. You know what I'm saying? Like. It's like that's not how marriage is supposed to be. Marriage is not no boyfriend and girlfriend type. You know, it's a covenant. You know, you have to understand like marriage is a reflection of Christ and the church. Like you know what I mean. Like if you understand that, you understand why marriage is so sacred. You know, and I take I value my marriage. I take my marriage like very serious. Taking those vows in front of God, if you know that you're presenting your marriage to God, you can't play with that.
Correct.
You can't play with that. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of lies have kind of just been sold on marriage. A lot of lies have just been sold to this generation on relationships. And, you know, a lot of people find themselves just kind of just doing their thing. And then, you know, like things kind of just don't work out. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in like Christian communities as well, because, you know, there's divorce in the church. There's things like that that happens, you know. But at the end of the day, it's really about how you value your marriage. You know what I'm saying? The value you put on it. And when you really value something like that, you will fight to make sure that it stays intact, you know? But that's what I say on that.
Absolutely. I was speaking to someone that is a sort of a mentor to me, and she told me if she knew 100 couples, probably 4 of them, and somebody in church, probably 4 of them, she would want her marriage to be modeled as, or after, I should say. And that made me so sad because it was almost like I'm looking at how, like, the enemy is like mollywopping marriages. And I want you to understand, not all of our men and women think how you're thinking, the maturity of it. So I want to ask you, what got you in that position? Because you did say before, like you were in the club, you were a player. Who was it? Like the word was a mentor. What kind of like sculpted your thoughts on biblical marriage and the sacred covenant about marriage and all the other things?
Well, I come from a 2-parent household, so I've kind of seen my parents be married. Not saying that their marriage was perfect, but that was kind of the first, like I guess the earliest representation of marriage to me, you know. And my parents are still together, you know. But I learned that at that time I didn't understand. The older generation, you know, marriage for them was almost like a way of survival in a way. You know what I mean? But seeing how things kind of are today, it's like they could have, like, at any point, you know, they could have filed any time they could have filed for divorce. There were plenty of reasons I could have seen a divorce happen. But to choose to endure, to choose to sacrifice because of the vows that you've taken before God, I understood how serious they took their marriage. You know what I mean? Now, I would say Ephesians is where I really learned how to properly be a husband, how to properly be married. But as well as, you know, I have my best man, seeing him kind of go from a bad situation. I'm not gonna really go too deep into it, but like, you know, he had one marriage that failed, and he then kind of was put in a position where he was a single father now, taking care of 2 boys. I had met him at the time. He was in that place of just not really knowing what was next. And you know, now he's married, he's expanded his family, and seeing how him and his wife, they care for one another, they support each other, they, you know, that was another I guess example to me that kind of like made me kind of just be like, you know, I want that. That's what I want. Like, you know, I can respect what my parents have. You know, I can appreciate what my parents have, but I want that. You know? Like, I want someone I can build with. I want someone who, when I'm at my lowest, will, you know, encourage me to get up and take on the world, you know? Like, I want somebody who, when I feel defeated, will speak life into me. You know what I'm saying? I want somebody who's gonna pray for me when I'm not even around. You know? And that to me was when, like, I kind of just, like, when I kind of understood what it was that I wanted, I became very intentional with what I was looking for.
And would you say that was key to finding your wife? You knew what you wanted and you were looking for it.
Yeah, absolutely. When you asked me the pivotal point for me, I was wrong. January 1st of 2023 was not the pivotal point. That was the point where I found the church that I wanted to like consistently go to, and I started to, like, you know, really learn, you know. But I think the turning point for me where I was kind of just like, you know, all right, I have to get it together. I have to get my relationship right because I don't know what tomorrow is. I had gotten in an accident the year prior to that.
A car accident?
Car accident, and that could have took me out.
Wow.
Definitely could have took me out by the grace of God. Like
Wow.
I didn't have any serious life-threatening injuries, you know. But it put a lot of things in perspective for me, and it made me realize that life is so brief, and it is but a flash, because all it takes is one instance, one snap of the fingers, and you're dust. It shook me up, but it made me realize that I was spared for a reason. You know?
What was that journey when you had that car accident? What was the transition like?
So from there, I was kind of more just like, okay, I know God is real. I know that if He wanted to, he could just snap his fingers and
that was done for you.
That was it for me. You know, I feel like what I took away from that moment, it was a reminder moving forward that if I was to continue to go down the path that I was going down, that I was going to not only be the cause of my own demise, but be the cause of the grief that my family was going to have to endure.
Powerful.
You know? And I didn't want that.
Yeah.
When I accepted my fault, I think that's when I kind of let go of my own, I guess, will, and was kind of just dependent on.
Yeah, you surrendered.
I surrendered, yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And from there, that's when it kind of just started, you know, for me. But it took me a while to really get a grip on, like, what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? Because still at the time, like, I'm still trying to get my life together.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm still trying to control what I like. Yeah. I'm still trying to control things.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you know, it's just like you learn that you can work all the hours in the day, but at the end of the day, everything around you is out of your control, and it's only in the control of one person.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really just to understand God's will is to understand that your will is secondary.
Right.
You know, you can only do so much, but without faith, you won't go far.
Correct.
Being intentional, right? So there was a book that I had read, and it was called The 7 Spiritual Laws, right? And one of the laws was the law of intention, you know? And I forgot the way it was put, but it was basically saying that if you're not intentional with your pursuits, then you will be all over the place, basically.
Correct.
You will be all over the place. You'll be like man without a cane. You know what I mean? I applied that to my dating life.
Right.
Like shortly after all of that, you know? And I knew that.
And it bear fruit?
Yeah.
Okay, you got my cousin.
You know? I was very specific with certain qualities that I wanted in my wife, you know? Like, that's the thing. I feel like a lot of guys don't really know what they want from, like, what they expect from a wife or what they want from a wife.
Yeah.
And I think it may come from just a lack of just knowing
who they are.
Exactly, knowing who
to
they
know
are.
what they need.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So one last thing, I would love for you to give the audience a word of wisdom.
See God with all your heart. Pray for wisdom. Pray for understanding. This life is very brief, you know. Whatever you can do, you know, do it, but understand that at the end of the day, you know, all of this is vain.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And at some point, we will all stand before God and we will be judged.
Absolutely.
So, you know, do right with everything that you do, and be somebody who lives with integrity, be somebody who lives with principles, and stand by your word. And that's the wisdom.
And I do want to add this: if you're not someone with all these characters yet, it's okay. Once you submit yourself to Christ and spend time with Him, be in prayer, fast, be in your word, you will begin to bear the fruit of the Spirit. You don't have to endure and change on your own. Like they say, you don't take or clean yourself before you take a shower.
Right.
You take a shower to clean yourself. Let God change you. Let the Spirit change you. So absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you. Guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. This is Prez. Now family.